Good morning, everybody. Good morning, and welcome to the very first show of Behind the Goals. This is the very first AFL sort of themed radio show on drn1.com. My name's John Gray. I'm one of the hosts here, and joining me here in the studio, your other host, Anthony Smith. Good morning, Anthony. How you doing?
Morning, mate. I'm just a bit thrown by your... I didn't know you were going to go full Good Morning Vietnam on me. That was amazing.
Mate, you've got to do a really good intro of a good morning.
Mate, I'm not going to forget that. That was brilliant. That's going to wake people up. That's great.
So it's probably going to have to happen every show is what you're saying now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Good morning. Every time we come back from music, we're going to do a good morning again and again.
What's going to be great is that it's also going as a podcast later on, so people are going to be listening to it whenever they are. You know, like sometimes I put a podcast on before I go to sleep. You're going to go, good morning!
Oh, did I get my days wrong? Are the kids waking up now?
Yeah, it'd be really good.
All right, well, so now that we've got that out of the way, which is good, let's tell all of our listeners, we've got a couple of people listening in live, and as you said, this is going to go out as a podcast.
Could we just address the drilling in the other room?
Yeah, let's address that. Okay, so it's not because we're swearing. We're doing a little bit of drilling in the studio today. We need to just...
Well, not us personally. We're just building our own studio.
As we're live on the air, we're actually building a studio as well. No, we are building a second studio next door. And as you know, it will wait for no man. The studio needs to be done. So, okay, let's look. We've got the intro out of the way now. They know who we are.
Well, they should tell what we're going to do.
That's right. So this show, Behind the Goals, that's what I said. Do you want to just give them a little bit of a rundown of why we picked Behind the Goals and what this is?
All right, well, I think Behind the Goals came about as a multi-layer kind of term that we're going for. So Behind the Goals, you know, firstly, I'm a music fan. Behind the Music was a great show.
It was.
Back whenever it was. I think it's still on, I don't know. But where they get into the lives of the musicians. So, like, that's the thing. We're going to go all-encompassing with this show. It's not just fantasy footy. It's not just reviews. It's not just the news of the week. It's everything to do with AFL that you want to know, pretty much. Like, the idea behind this show for us is that if you don't watch the footy, but you want to know about it, there's 9 games every weekend. Like, it's a big commitment to watch every single game.
It's huge. And if you don't have, say Fox Footy or the
AFL Live app or anything like that, it's difficult, you know, or you don't want to be unsocial.
That's right.
Lucky for me, I hate going out and meeting people. So
and that's why you're in the studio at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning.
Mate, and even when I am, I'm watching the game on my AFL Live app. People try and talk to me, and I'm sitting there going, actually, there's a game on right now. I was doing a shoot on Friday afternoon and watching the game between takes.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
It's that AFL Live app, man. It's brilliant.
So both Anthony and I have, bit of context, have done some acting in the past, and we continue to do a little bit. I've actually been backstage during a theatre show watching the footy.
You have to.
You got to.
You got to keep in touch. But so that's the idea here. So Behind the Goals, you know, that's where the supporters, the cheer squad sit. If you've got the most dedicated supporters, you're going to find them behind the goals, and then just, you know, behind the goals that are kicked to the breakdown of the actual goals, the game. Like, so Behind the Goals we thought was pretty good. BTG.
It kind of rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
We'll make sure it does roll off the tongue. It didn't that time.
Yeah, BTG.
I'll take a drink and get
Look, we're getting it going. We're going to get hashtag BTG on Twitter.
Yeah.
Why not? Let's do that. Okay, so that's a little bit about how the show came about. You know, Anthony and I are big sports fans, big AFL fans. Kind of when the season's on, our lives revolve around that.
We do. We're in a pretty competitive Supercoach draft league as well.
That's right. We have been for quite some time.
What we found is that John is a really big fan, but as you said, he can't watch the games every single time. And I do shut out most of my life to watch the games. So a lot of our conversation revolved around me telling John what happened in the footy for that week.
Yeah, as much as I don't like to admit it, that is what happens. But I can hold my own at a barbecue with the lads.
Yeah, especially once you've had a chat to me. So that's the idea here, is that we can give you a quick chat about what's happened this week. We're going to do reviews and previews. That's reviews of the games that are happening. So we're falling on a Sunday. So review the games that are happening, preview the games coming up. We're going to do a bit of fantasy information. We're going to do a bit of best bet at the end of the episode. You know, here's one idea of what you can throw your cash on if you want.
Yep, and heaps of banter.
little bit of banter.
Or maybe
yeah.
a little bit. Maybe I don't want to go. Maybe I don't want to throw out heaps of banter just yet. We might not get that much banter.
Yeah, until we get carried away and realise we haven't been talking footy for the last 10 minutes.
I don't want it to be. I certainly don't want it to be false advertising here. Anyone listening in's expecting good banter.
You didn't say it would be good banter. You just said lots of banter.
No, that's right. That's right. Yeah. It's definitely not going to be good banter. That's for sure.
But hey, tune in anyway.
Tune in anyway, or listen to the podcast drm1.com or drm1.com.au, and we also have an app there as well. So get onto that, download that, and you can listen anytime. Now, okay, as you said, reviews and previews. This is going to be a 2-hour show, generally speaking, when the season starts. But we're in pre-season now. Not that many games. It's probably going to be about an hour long today, and until the season starts. So reviews and previews. What have we had happen over the weekend? We've had the pre-season competition start up. The AFLW is still going.
Full flight, yep.
And, of course, there's always lots of news in the lead up to the season. It seems like it never ends.
Every player's getting midfield time now.
Well, that's right, and we're going to cover a little bit of that later on in the show. But let's jump straight into our reviews now. Let's go back to the first game of the pre-season competition. We've got St Kilda versus the Hawthorn Hawks. And now that just the score on that one, 17-9, 111. St Kilda defeated the Hawks 13-12, 90. Anthony, take us through a little bit of the ins and outs of those teams and sort of what stood out with the players and the changing up before the season there.
Well, both teams were pretty strong teams for a Marsh series. I can say JLT, it's Marsh now.
Yeah, the Marsh
series. For
a
pre-season competition. I mean, Saints are missing Geary, Robertson, Webster, Hanbury, new inclusion, Zach Jones didn't play either. But it did seem like...
anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
No. But it did seem like they were trying to put kind of their best foot forward, and I think that was kind of a justification for them in terms of, look, in the off season we went out, we targeted these big name players because we didn't think we needed to do a full rebuild. We need to just top up, and that's what they've done. They targeted, your Brad Hills, Paddy Ryder, these kinds of players to fill in the gaps they thought they had. And hey, I mean, it worked for them. They played really well. Hawks were only really missing, from what I see, Burgoyne and Sicily.
Yep.
And Sicily, that's a big loss right there. And Silk adds a lot. But
probably one of the most hated players in the AFL, though. We've got to put that out there with Sicily.
I love him.
What?
Absolutely love him.
And you've been listening to drm1.com.au. That's our show for the year.
I love a little bit of niggle. And he gives you that.
But he's got a rude head, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. He's got that head that you like. He's got to be able to back it up. I think that's why he's such a infuriating guy, because we had a lot of guys coming at him.
Yeah, but he is a good player. He is a good player.
Yeah, silky and just that boot, that kick.
Yeah.
Like, damaging. But yeah, either way though, like, I think the Hawks' detriment here was that they were trying to manage their players too much, and I don't think the Hawks really cared about the win. Like, you can't take that away from competitive sportsmen. They're going to want to win any game they play.
Sure, of course.
But it's Hawthorn. They pick and choose their battles. And they had Mitchell coming back from injury.
Yep.
They're managing time through the midfield. They didn't have guys playing full. I think Mitchell only played up until three-quarter time.
Which is a smart move.
Exactly.
And I think when we have a bit more of a discussion on this, we're going to cover a little bit on Mitchell.
Definitely.
I mean,
got to talk.
You can't talk Hawks
or
now
fantasy
without Tom Mitchell, can you?
No. So that was. But whereas the Saints, I think, just meant a lot more to them.
Mm-hmm.
Playing at Moorabbin again for the first time in years. They actually got a decent crowd out there for a preseason game. Went hard and got the win. They jumped out of the blocks early.
Well, they've got a lot to prove, don't they?
Oh, definitely do, yeah. Hawks kind of pegged them back and then just ran out of gas tickets and also didn't try. Pulled their players back.
Or at least that's their excuse.
No, I mean, well, this is what I mean. Like, they pegged them back and then put Mitchell on the bench. Wingard played, I think, 60% game time. He played a lot of midfield, but when the game was there to be won, Clarkson didn't let his players play.
Yeah.
And Saints made the most of it. But, I mean, in saying that, Saints look good. Hill's giving them a lot of run through the middle.
And that's a huge loss to Fremantle, isn't it? Losing Bradley Hill.
And Langdon on the other wing. Like, they've lost some run and carry.
I think people don't sort of give Brad Hill enough credit at Fremantle. I think out on the wing there, he did some exceptional work. And it's a huge loss.
Well, didn't he win their best and fairest in his first season there?
Yeah.
Like, he did very well for him. But I think the thing with Hill at Freo, we got a little bit off topic here.
We have.
Was that, and we're probably going to do that a lot, was that a lot of his, say, big possession games came off Fife getting a big possession game.
Exactly.
So he was very reliant on Fife getting the ball out to him to be able to do that damage. Freo didn't really have any other inside mids or mids who could win a contested ball, get the ball out to him. So if Fife had a quiet game, didn't play. Hill had a quiet game, didn't play,
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of think the dynamic kind of happened there. But back to the Saints and Hawks, I guess. That was your new faces for St Kilda there. Bradley Hill definitely came through the middle, added a lot to it. Ryder showed bit of promise for them in the ruck, went forward a bit. For St Kilda, I think, so Dan Butler did a bit for him there. He's another new player. Dougal Howard, they nabbed from Port, who somehow became the best player in the AFL over trade period. Everyone wanted him.
Always. I mean, he's a good player.
I think it's all about potential, isn't it?
That's right.
Your potential just gets amplified during trade period. But he did a lot there. I think he copped a hit early, which shoulder stinger, which, he was labouring under that, but he got through and went well. Max King is a player that a lot of them wanted to see. So he was their first draft pick 2 years ago, I think, last year.
Yeah.
Didn't play last year because he was coming off an ACL. I think he kicked 4 in their interclub match.
Yeah, okay.
Kind of thing. So there's he's done a lot of good stuff in the VFL last year. So there's a lot of hype around him, but not that he didn't live up to it, but he's a stay-at-home forward. He's a young kid. You're not going to see him kick 8 goals a game. It just doesn't happen anymore.
No, that's right. It doesn't.
I think people have to temper their expectations on him a bit because the last thing you want is to put a bunch of pressure on a young kid.
I think it's unavoidable, though, isn't it? I mean, young kids these days in the AFL, I think the pressure is, greater on them than it is on the Stars now.
Well, the upside to that for them is that you've got Tim Membry sitting up there in the forward line, kicked those 4 goals, marked everything that came his way. He's going to take a lot of pressure off King while he's developing, because you're not going to be able to send the best defender to King. You got to send to Membry, or he's gonna mark everything.
So let's just get your quick thoughts on the game generally, obviously with the ins and the outs, and how do you see both teams sitting going into the season? And obviously, I know it's the first preseason game. It's really hard to sort of make a determination on that, but we're going to do it anyway. This is going to be the radio show of big calls. #big calls.
Yeah. All right.
And so here's Anthony with the first big call of the season.
Oh, look,
what do you think?
I still think Hawks can play finals this year.
They're not too old?
No.
They're not too slow?
No, you can't write anyone else off under Clarkson.
No, that's true.
And that's what everyone says, isn't it? But no, I think Wingard through the middle just gives them such an X factor.
Yeah.
Warpool's had another year to develop. He's shone without Mitchell there last year.
Certainly has.
With Mitchell there.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about Tom Mitchell. What does he bring to this team that they didn't have last year? Obviously, he's capable of 50+ possessions a game, so he brings that.
Look, it's where he gets those possessions.
That's right.
He's a lot of the time he's the first ball winner under a ruckman. Now, that's your first point that's like the old Pritis. The ball goes straight to him. He reads it so well. But even when he looks like he's out of position, he just finds a way to get to the ball. He runs all day. He gets to every contest. That's and like you said, you're missing 30, 40, 50 possessions a game from your players.
And is he going to repeat that this year, do you think?
Oh, look, I don't think he knows how not to.
Yeah.
He's
got it on a string, doesn't he?
Even when he was at Sydney, and this is the thing that as a fantasy player that everyone was just like, come on, horse, just play the kid.
Yeah.
Because every time he played, he had this amazing ceiling. And he's just got this incredible fantasy game. And he was a pig then, a pig in waiting,
Would you pick him for pick 1 in the draft?
No.
No.
Why
not?
Because that's Grundy every day of the week. If you've got pick 1, you've got to take the best ruckman.
Yeah, you do.
Sorry, no. Okay. You've got to take the best ruckman who's going to be scoring 130, 120 each week,
right.
There's no other players in that position. Max Gawn maybe. But after that...
Bit inconsistent.
Yeah, but after that, there's no one else hitting those. So, if you're going to match up with Grundy in your ruck, the guy who you're playing against doesn't have someone who's scoring that in their ruck. They're sitting there with hopefully a guy that they're going, oh, maybe he's going to get to 90. You're straight away 40 points better in that position.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we've got to go off track there.
Okay, so before we're going to move on to the next game.
That's going to be our next hashtag, bit off track.
Bit off track. Give us your thoughts on Brad Hill's comments in the media recently about St Kilda and finally feeling that he's found his place.
Wouldn't you feel pretty pretty at home if you were getting paid that much?
Yeah, of course. So do you think he's made those comments because he's being paid that much? Or
Oh,
do you
look,
think
you're
it's
not going to go to a club and go, oh, you know what? Actually, I was happier at Freo. I really, really wish I hadn't left. You know, or geez, I really enjoyed my time at Hawthorn where I won 3 premierships. I wish I could go back there. You're not. You're going to go to your new club and go, I've never been happier wearing this polo and taking $900,000 a year.
So it's just that you think there's nothing else. We shouldn't read into it. We shouldn't say anything about Fremantle or the culture at the club. It should just be he's getting paid now by this club.
Look, in this regard,
yeah,
I think it's just a case of just saying, yeah, he's going to talk up his new club. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, okay.
You know, it's to be expected. In saying that, he looked really happy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He did look very, very happy.
Yeah, but you do look happy when you got the ball on the string, don't you?
All right. So look, we did get off topic there a little bit.
So your new faces from Hawthorn, Sam Frost in defence.
Yep. Fantastic.
John Patton up forward. So last year, this is what really is.
And there's the drilling again.
Really surprised me last year was that everyone was talking about the ins and outs of GWS. They never mentioned we didn't hear anything about Patton.
No, you didn't.
He was coming off an ACL from the year before, coming up to finals, even before finals. They could have used a big forward. He was, from what I heard, he could have played, and he wasn't getting mentioned in conversation. Wasn't even so. I think he had checked out of that club and left long before that season finished.
Yeah, it certainly seems like that.
You
doesn't
know,
it?
and he looked great out there for Hawthorn. He's going to give them a target up forward. You know, you've got someone else who was written off from GWS, Scully, running up and down the wing, looking $1 million. Someone else who wasn't going to play another game, apparently.
Yeah.
They just find these players, man. It's insane.
It is. They've got
and
a real
get them
skill,
for nothing.
a real knack of doing that.
But in saying that, they find these guys were both top 3 draft picks.
No, that's right. That's right. That's right. All right. Well, look, we're going to go to the Dogs and North Melbourne game shortly. We're just going to take a quick music break, probably one song, and then we'll be right back with you.
Unless you're on the podcast, then we're going to be right back.
And that's right. If you're on the podcast, we are going to be right back. Oh, 20 minutes. So
20.
Yeah, that's 20. So we've got 40, a little less than 40 to go over the rest. So
look, we are not talking AFLW.
We can go over an hour. This is the thing. It doesn't have to be bang on an hour.
No,
is that all right?
You can go over.
Yep.
And this is
that's
just
the whole idea of the 2-hour show. Is you've got 2 hours to talk.
Yeah, exactly.
So now that you know that that's 20 minutes
on one game,
you might just want to stretch it out to 2 hours.
Yeah.
The thing is,
we'll go to it right now to content today.
What we can do as well is we can cut this episode
good, man.
20-minute blocks and just release 20-minute blocks.
Yeah. Let's see. See how we go.
All you need to do is tell us in the notes section what the first 20 minutes was about, and then we use that as a show description, and we just release that as a 20-minute block. So that way it's bite-sized.
And it's getting out there quicker.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah.
Is that death by content though? Is it? Because if you're subscribed.
Well, so you got the best of both worlds. You can either listen to the parts that you want, or you can listen to all of them in the playlist. So.
And I suppose it's easy to jump to what you want then, isn't it? If you're watching and you're like, well, I didn't watch this game, I want to know about it.
Yeah. I'm just thinking a 2-hour podcast, even once you take out the music, that comes down to an hour and 45 minutes. The recommended length for a podcast is 30 minutes because that's the time it takes to get from Canberra to the old school days when they had less train stations, but now they have more train stations, so it's going to be 45 minutes.
Yeah. No, tight 20 is good.
We can give them an option.
The thing is, we can even we don't even have to have music necessarily, or do we?
A
little bit.
It's a good time to have a break, just in case you need it.
Yeah.
Imagine if you have diarrhea.
Yeah, and that you.
Then we're putting a bucket right here. And we're turning off webcams.
You're not coming in that day. We'll Skype you in.
Skype in.
Just call in, yeah. Call in from the toilet.
All right, got 10 seconds.
He's really going for it, isn't he?
You know, do you think first? Does AFL stars who are musicians?
All right, we're back. Good morning, everybody! If you hadn't tuned in before now and you are listening to Behind the Goals on DRM1.com, we actually opened the show with a good morning, and Anthony did have a bit of a laugh on that because this is being turned into a podcast, and if you're listening at midnight, it may not be a good morning at all.
Oh, look, I reckon we can just throw through them as the show goes on. So the next one go good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and then good evening.
Yeah, and we'll release them in little blocks. And, if they want to listen to one when they can, you can time it up that way.
I'm going to say good night and goodbye or something, and we can do a little...
Good day.
Good day, sir. We could do a little song, perhaps at the end. You and I could sing a lullaby.
Oh, we won't subject them to that just yet.
No, not just yet.
Let's wait till we've got a loyal following.
And once again, just a reminder that we are building another studio in here today, and so you will hear some drilling, but that won't be the case.
And also a reminder you're listening to Behind the Goals.
That's right, Behind the Goals. With John and Anthony, this is our very first episode. It's a pilot. We're going to get some things wrong, but we're also going to get some things right, hopefully. Okay, so we've just talked about the St Kilda Hawthorn game. Let's move on to the Western Bulldogs and North Melbourne. That was 15-11, 101 for the Doggies defeating the Roos 9-3, 57. What's your take, Anthony?
All right, so this is just pure, this was a preseason game. There's no two ways about that. North went into this without pretty much their first choice midfield. You had Ben Cunnington in there, and then Daylight, maybe Simcombe. So they're missing Higgins, Zeeble, Pollock. You probably throw Davis Uniacke in there, Hole, Jacobs, Brown up forward, Tarrant down back.
Some big names.
Yeah,
huge names.
Easily best 18. I think that list I just went down, most of them would have finished top 10 in their best and fairest last year.
And yet they still got the win.
No, that was North Melbourne.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. They didn't win. They got the loss.
They got absolutely belted out of the middle because the Bulldogs would just walk it out there and do what they want because the Bulldogs went in with pretty much a full-strength team, save English, their ruckman. Norton got pulled out just before the game, and Easton Wood in defence. Libba maybe might be in their best 22. But that midfield just completely dominated, headlined by...
of course, the man, Bontempelli.
None other than, Marcus Bontempelli.
Who we will have a discussion on really, really soon.
Yeah, that dude is a freak. But, so new players for the Bulldogs. Alex Keith came over from the Crows last year, slotted into that defence just perfectly, intercept marking everything. Caleb Daniel, it looks like he's carried on being not new face, of course, but defender back there. So he's taking their kickouts. He's linking up really well with Keith. So Keith's pulling him down, handing him off. Both of them went at about 95% disposal efficiency out of defence. That is huge for two players that got about 20 touches each.
Yeah, it doesn't happen overly often, does it?
No, that is amazing.
That's up there with the likes of, say, Shannon Hearn. We know his, or Lewis Jetta, their disposal
efficiency is amazing.
Is amazing in defence.
Yeah, and it's not just a case of sometimes you can get your disposal efficiency up by, all right, well, I'm going to kick or handball
just a short
3 meters to someone out in the clear. Yeah, they were taking risks coming out of the middle, hitting those superstar midfielders. So that Dogs midfield is just A grade.
It's scary, isn't it?
It's incredible. You've got Bontempelli, you've got McRae, Hunter.
Dunkley
is incredible.
Then you've got Daniel sort of,
Well, what's actually really funny is I saw they had a breakdown of centre bounce tenses. Bulldogs know what works for them because you looked at, say, in comparison to North Melbourne, they had 8 guys who all had roughly the same centre bounce clearances of, 8 centre bounce tendencies each, roughly. Whereas Bulldogs had 4 guys who they were just putting through constantly together. You had Dunkley, McRae, Norton, and I don't want to say Wallace.
You can say Wallace.
I don't think it's Wallace.
We'll just censor that. We'll cut that one out in editing.
Look, they had 4. No. It was Jordan Sweet, the ruckman, because that's 4 people.
Yes.
So that was their main 4. Once in a while, they had someone else come in, but Lipinski came in for a few. But just off track a little bit, fantasy wise, if you've been tracking Lipinski as a breakout guy, he's not going to get into that midfield and get the time needed without one of those players getting injured.
And we are going to talk a lot about fantasy on this show. If you're not a fantasy footballer, you should be, Firstly, you should be because it's fantastic. Anthony and I are in a long-running fantasy football competition, but we will cover the fantasy football quite a bit because firstly it's fun, but it's also a bit of an indicator of how players are going, how teams are going.
Oh, exactly right. You can see a lot of sometimes how players are tracking. It also makes you watch games you may not be that interested in.
That's right.
Like tuning into the Gold Coast game last night.
I mean, that would be pretty much everyone, wouldn't it? Nobody would be interested in watching that.
But it was well worth the watch in the end.
It was. But we're gonna get to that. That's a couple of games down the track.
So new players, and just to touch on that as well. So North had Aidan Bonner, who they got over from GWS. That's been on a lot of people's fantasy watch list as a player to keep an eye on. One of the big question marks around Bonner, even from his juniors, is that he didn't have a tank. So he's building up this running ability. And when you got a tank, it's a case of, I'll explain that a bit more. It's a player who can run for a long time.
Yeah.
It's not just a case of running though. It's repeat sprint efforts. It's physical, getting hit, getting back up, keep going kind of thing. So it's not just, if you're a runner, that's great. You've got to be able to be a football-based runner.
Has a tank, doesn't he?
Yeah. Or Scully runs all day. Gaff,
yeah.
15 Ks a game kind of players. He's nowhere near that. In this game, he should have really been in that midfield. If you want a player who's going to come in and actually, this is the time to do it, because they had one good midfielder in that Kangaroos thing, and Ben Cunnington, and you'd think then throw Bonner in there. He played 60% game time. He played half the game in a game where he should have been
running it out easily.
I don't think he can.
Yeah.
And
do you see that as improving this year, or
well, as the season goes on though, you look at that midfield, they're going to get Higgins back in there, Zeeble back in there, Paulek on the wing, Hall's probably going to go in there, Jacob's going to go in there to tag someone.
Where does he go?
He's going to be in the forward line.
Yeah.
He's not going to get enough of the ball to be a high fantasy scorer. He's not going to make you that much money. There's a lot of hype around him. I don't think people should be on him.
For fantasy, so you're making the big call here. Hashtag big calls, Anthony's big calls. Do not get on Bonner is what you're saying.
Just for around the same price, you can get Blake Acres,
who has, as we know, just moved to Fremantle.
And is going to get a lot of time on that wing.
Because they have lost
all their wings.
Pretty much every player that they had.
Yeah.
He's going to get a lot of the ball, Blake Acres.
He is.
So he's your pick instead of Bonner.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Price similar, I think.
That's a big call, but we are the show of
Acres will do better than Bonner this year.
Okay. Well, look, let's cover some a little bit later. We'll cover some fantasy, who you're going to get around, and perhaps a couple of picks. If you were doing fantasy Supercoach Classic, who you might pick first and last, and who you wouldn't pick, who everyone else is picking. We'll get to that later. But just give us an overview of Dogs.
So pretty much, yeah. So Bulldogs just absolutely owned this game in every facet of it. They just played against witches' hats. There was no... and this is we'll get into a bit with the other game as well, but when you've got these young guys from a different club who their stars aren't playing, you want to see something from them. You're fighting for a spot, own that spot, show us why. Norton was a late out for this game, and the Dogs brought in Lewis Taylor, I believe his name was.
Sure.
No, that's probably not it.
Probably not it. I don't know. I don't know who they brought in. I can't say that I follow the Dogs ins and outs as much as you did.
Lewis Young,
okay.
So Lewis Young came in last minute, but earned that spot.
Mm-hmm. And that's what you want.
Yeah, you want to take that opportunity and do it. He kicked, I think, the first goal of the game. Absolutely just marked whatever came near him. Became a force up forward with Shaki. You want them to take... That's what you want to see as a supporter, as a fantasy watcher, anything like that. You want them when they get a chance to then...
They take a bit of ownership, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was like watching the Harlem Globetrotters play against Celtics.
Yeah.
The Dogs' midfield was just on fire and just led by Bontempelli, doing whatever
let's talk
he
about
wanted.
Bontempelli.
You have to.
Yeah, let's have a little discussion on him. And before the show, we were talking about Marcus Bontempelli and whether or not we've seen the best of him and how he's going to go this year. Look, what do you think?
After this game, I know that his fantasy ownership jumped up a mountain just based on what he did. He jumped up in the Brownlow odds. He's become a favourite everywhere just based on the fact that he took this game by the scruff of the neck. What I would be hesitant on, and I sound like a real naysayer after going hard on Bono before, but I'm not jumping on him. And
That's another hashtag big call. Anthony's not jumping on Bontempelli. And
look, here's why. All right,
they
were playing against North Melbourne, who weren't applying any defensive pressure whatsoever. They put a tagger with him in the last half of the game when Bontempelli already had his tail up. He wasn't...
Ended up then going on and kicking a couple of goals.
The guy they put on him, I think, might have been Tarrant Thomas.
Yeah.
Running with him, not really doing much around him, like putting body pressure on him at stoppages. But then that wasn't where Bontempelli was getting the ball. He was going to get the next competition, just running down the contest. He was just hunting that ball, doing what he wanted.
And North Melbourne's not really known for their pressure, are they?
I mean, they can be, they've got Ben Jacobs who tags a lot, but he's been pretty injured. But this is what I mean. They just let him do whatever he wanted. Teams aren't going to do that during the season. Round 3, they've got GWS. De Boer is going to go to Bontempelli.
Yeah.
This is...
And as we've seen in the past, Bontempelli, not great with a tag.
Doesn't handle tags that well, you know? And that's the difference here is that, when he's allowed to do what he wants, he'll do great.
Yeah.
And most players do. But I'm not jumping on because this isn't his regular occurrence. This is an out-of-the-box. He was allowed to do what he wants. You don't let Bontempelli do what he wants.
No. He's a game changer. He's a game winner.
Yeah.
If you let him do what he wants, he will win the game for you. Yeah.
So, and I think the issue we saw last year was that when he does get tagged, no one helps him.
Bulldogs, who do they have?
Well, this is the thing. When someone like Fife gets tagged, you've got Conker running through the player tagging him, trying to break away, let him get away from that player.
And as I said, before the show, teams like the Eagles have Yo or Hutchings to come in, and you've got these taggers. But North Melbourne,
but you've got players who are breaking tags, But for Bulldogs, when someone goes to Bontempelli, the Bulldogs go, "Oh, great! Well, McRae's free. McRae can do whatever he wants now.
Hunter.
Dunkley can do whatever he wants now.
Yeah.
Hunter on the wing can do whatever he wants. They don't really care when one of their players gets tagged because the next guy's going to step up and do the job." So there's no real need for them in their opinion. And then if that tag loosens on Bont because they go, actually, McRae's cutting us up, go to McRae, then Bont's going to jump up and do what he wants.
That's right.
So there's, from an opposition point of view, you're going to look at the Bulldogs and go, all right, we have to shut down Bont because he is the one that's going to change the game. But McRae's still going to get 40 disposals and cut you up. They've just got so many running through that. Dunkley's a game changer who gets no attention.
He gets absolutely zero, and I had him last year in my Supercoach team.
Yeah, who picked him for me?
And you picked him for me. So, look, I mean, I had some issues. I shouldn't be live drafting on my phone. Anthony actually jumped in and did my entire team, which didn't win, by the way, Anthony. So I blame you.
Yeah, but I didn't do that till after round 3, round 4, and you'd auto-drafted your first couple of rounds. I think Hearn.
I think my first pick was Tom Mitchell. That was my...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, out for a year with a broken leg. That's what you want with your first pick, isn't it?
So you're off Bontempelli. Is it at all possible that...
Look. All right, not off him completely. He's a great player. He's going to be in the All-Australian team probably.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't see him polling Brownlow votes. I can't see him being that superstar fantasy player. He'll have games where he will get 150. He'll do that amazing thing, but he'll have other games where he'll get 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
And
you need to
say, why did I spend this much money on him?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, look, before we move to the next game, I just want to ask you about some bizarre comments that the Bulldogs coach Luke Beveridge made in a press conference after the game. Take us through what he said and why.
Yeah, so just out of absolutely nowhere, no one asked him. It's like he was waiting for that question to come up, and it never came up. So during the week, there was an article run about this player they've got on their Next Generation Academy, which is, for people that don't know, each club has an academy which they use to bring in kids and give them opportunities that they wouldn't normally get and develop their skills, everything like that. So they've got Jamara Ugle-Hagen.
Sorry, what was that? Did you just swear at me?
Got to censor that. Jamara Ugle-Hagen, I believe his name is. I'm going to have to look at it now because you're in my head.
No, that's right. That is right.
That is right. Who is just being likened to the next Buddy Franklin. He does some incredible things up forward for them, has just this athleticism on the ground, in the air, kicks goals from anywhere. He's a freak of nature.
Yeah.
And he looks like he's going to be one of those players. Now, of course, you can't predict the future. Who knows what's going to happen to him? Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he does. Who knows? But right now, from all the potential markers, he's ticking every box well and above what it is. Now, he's sitting there in the Bulldogs Academy. Bulldogs sitting there with a pretty good team who are probably going to play finals again.
Yeah, you would think so.
Who don't really deserve a top 1, 2, 3 pick.
Sure.
Coming around next year. That's all that this article kind of said. Now, Beveridge has kind of come out calling recruiters short-sighted or something. Like, he's just gone absolutely hard at no one because no one asked him the question.
So hang on. He basically just created his own question. Is that what he did?
Yeah, kind of thing. It's like he's on Ugelhagen. Did someone say Jamara Ugelhagen?
Did you mention Jamara? Sorry, who was that?
Yeah, or he had the Bulldogs captain Easton Hood standing in the background in like a trench coat and a thing asking the question about him or something.
I think I heard a question in the back there. Yeah, no, you there, sir, with the hat on and the trench coat. What was that? Jamara Ugelhagen?
Pretty much. And just going on about how why they deserve him and everything, and the reason why he's trying to get in front of this, of course, is because there is always the AFL changes the rules on the fly, and you've got to be concerned that they are going to say, "Oh, actually, we're going to change the rules on how you get first academy picks and everything to try and stop something like this happening if they think that he's not going to go to the Gold Coast or something like that." But so with academy picks, your team gets 20% discount on that player with the draft points, the way it works out. So they could get this guy for a late first round pick, where he should be gone on a normal draft.
Really early.
1, 2, easily. Especially next year, the draft is so compromised with these academies. It's scary. But yeah, it was just hilarious, just out of the blue. Just
really wanted to, he was boiling over, really wanted to get it out there.
Oh,
and didn't care if there was a question asked or not.
Yeah, pretty much. And you just think he must have, like, his team's just carved up. Looked really good. And either he doesn't want to talk them up right now, or he wants to throw fire on it. It's some kind of tactic, but I just imagine you're sitting there the whole game just bubbling about this article that got written. And
I certainly wouldn't want to be talking my team up after playing witches' hats in North Melbourne. Okay, so look, we're going to go to a song, but just give us we didn't do this with Saints and Hawks. So for the 4 teams that we've discussed, give us a predicted ladder position based on what you've seen.
Jesus.
So Saints, where are they finishing?
Just outside the 8.
Just out. And Hawks?
I think they can play finals.
Yeah, say 5, 6, maybe not that high, maybe 7 or 8.
Probably sneak in.
Sneak it in there. And Doggies, you would expect
Doggies
pushing the 4.
Doggies are playing finals.
I mean, they're in there. They're definitely. We know they're going to play finals.
Yeah. Look, it's
pushing 4 maybe.
Oh, I just think that top 4 is so strong.
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah. So look, 5th.
5th, yeah. And North Melbourne, 16th.
Yeah, look, they're not having a good year.
It's hard to say on preseason.
It's hard on that game. They've got a lot of good players coming in. Look, they showed a lot when Shaw took over, but it was brief.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's
look, they're still the same team that got belted by Fremantle first round last year.
And that's embarrassing, isn't it? That's embarrassing.
So, they're not playing finals.
No,
they're down the bottom somewhere.
All right, we're going to go to a quick song now. When we come back, we're going to talk about Melbourne and Adelaide, and then also